morning, Germantown. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for Monday, April the 13th. This is the business meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the city of Germantown. We welcome all those that are viewing and video streaming this meeting. We are not coming from the council chambers as normal. We certainly do appreciate all of our residents that are tuning in this evening. We appreciate all the work that you've done over the last 30 or so days in combating the spread of this virus. Also, it has created somewhat of a new normal for many of us in meetings. This is the third time that we've conferenced a meeting. One was one of our commission meetings for retirement. Another one was our financial advisory commission. So a few ground rules just to go over. For those that are on the call this evening, if you could make sure that you mute your microphone. When you want to be recognized, please unmute and request the floor. Please be mindful and respectful of those that are speaking this evening. This is new for all of us, and it's somewhat different than what we're used to. By design, this agenda is somewhat pared down and somewhat short. You will begin to notice as a community and as a Board of Mayor and Aldermen that as we plan in a budgetary fashion, that we will begin to look at projects and programs, contracts much differently as we begin to fully understand how the virus affects us from not only a social standpoint, a business standpoint, but also from a budget standpoint here at the city of Germantown. So with that said, we would, like I mentioned, make sure you're muted right now. The format is what we're used to. You'll notice that there are some things not contained on the agenda this evening. No Pledge of Allegiance, Alderman Liaison Reports, special recognition. We bypass having the executive summary or executive session because that's generally a session just for the alderman to ask questions. It is not, of course, it's open to the public, but there are no action taken at that time. We will do that here shortly. No citizens to be heard. We're very disappointed on that. We're working and efforting to come up with, and our city attorney's on this call this evening as well. We're working to finalize some ways to do that in a very efficient and effective manner as we look to bringing forth public hearings when necessary by ordinance later on. So we're working to effort toward that, and we will commit to having those things in place by the next meeting. So with that said, again, I have welcomed the community to the meeting. I've called the meeting to order. At this particular time, I'd like to ask City Administrator Patrick Lawton to lead us in an invocation. Patrick,
thank you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, I pray that you guide us always, satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting, strengthen us as we make tough decisions. I pray that we will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. I pray that we will be fruitful. Father, please guide us so that this meeting can be productive. Let us be effective and decisive. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Lawton. As mentioned earlier, there are several people on the call this evening representing the staff. Our City Administrator, Patrick Lawton, City Attorney, Mac McCarroll, City Court Clerk and Council Clerk, Michelle Betty. IT Director Tony Fisher is on the call just for technical support. Those are the individuals on the call, and of course, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. At this time, I'd like to ask for Michelle Betty, our clerk, to call the roll to establish a quorum of those that are elected officials that are here participating in the meeting this evening. Clerk Betty.
Alderman Sanders.
Present.
Alderman Gibson.
Here.
Alderman Massey.
Here.
Alderman Owens.
I'm here.
And Vice Mayor Yonda.
Here.
Thank you, Clerk. All aldermen are present and accounted for. We have a quorum this evening. I'd like to read into the record a statement that has been fashioned by our city attorney and also talks a little bit about our meeting format this evening. All local governing bodies in the state of Tennessee have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Germantown is no exception. In an effort to carry out its governance and operational responsibilities lawfully and effectively, while also considering the protection of public health, safety, and welfare. The Germantown City Administration has taken steps to conduct Board of Mayor and Aldermen and other public meetings electronically. These actions were taken in response to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16, which suspended the requirements of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act to the extent necessary to allow governing bodies subject to the act to meet and conduct essential business by electronic means. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen has determined that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Further, notice of such electronic meetings has been and will continue to be published in the same manner as is currently used for regular meetings. The public is also and will continue to be able to view the agenda and have live access to the actual meetings by electronic means by logging into the Germantown's website and by clicking the appropriate link. Video recordings of the meeting will be made available as soon as practical after each meeting on the city's website at www.germantown-tn.gov. These measures are temporary and are due to expire on May 18th, 2020, unless further action is taken by Governor Lee. So reading that into the records, that takes us to item 4 on the agenda, setting the agenda. The agenda was presented to the public last Wednesday. Is there a motion to set and adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Alderman Gibson has made a motion, and I believe I saw the Vice Mayor mouthing a motion. I think you were on mute. Vice Mayor, if you could unmute yourself, and if you'd like to second that motion.
I'll second it.
There we go. We have a motion on the table and a second. Please call the roll.
Mayor, I have a motion, please.
Sure. Oh, well, okay, sure.
I would like to ask that we move item 6A and item 6E to the regular agenda.
There is a motion to amend the agenda as presented to the public to move item 6A and 6E to what would be the regular agenda, items 1 and 2. Actually, that'd be items 7 and 8. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson,
No.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
No.
Alderman Yonda,
No.
Thank you. The motion fails. There's been motioned and seconded to set and adopt the agenda as presented. Please call the roll.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
No.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Alderman Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders.
No.
Thank you. The agenda has been adopted this evening. That takes us to item 5 on the agenda this evening, approval of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting on March the 9th, 2020. Those minutes were presented to the public and to the board. Are there any modifications, additions, or corrections at this particular time to the minutes? Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll move to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. There is a motion by Alderman Sanders and a second by Alderman Massey to approve the minutes. Please call the roll.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda,
I'll abstain.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries and is approved. The minutes of the meeting for March 9th are accepted and approved. That brings us to the preliminary agenda this evening. I'll ask City Administrator Patrick Lawton to give a quick caption overview of each item, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The first item is the agreement for the cardio equipment lease. Regarding this item, for over a decade, the Germantown Athletic Club has leased cardiovascular exercise equipment for this facility. By way of the lease, our athletic club's customers have access to the most recent and up-to-date technology and type of equipment. And because there's a maintenance agreement included in this lease, the amount of equipment downtime has been reduced significantly. This agenda item requests authorization for a 3-year agreement with Leasing Services Center, doing business as NCL Government Capital, to supply this cardiovascular exercise equipment for a total amount of $230,110.20. The next item is the item B, the contract well pump and maintenance repair. At the August 26th meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, 2019, the board authorized city staff to use a competitive sealed proposal process to procure an experienced vendor to provide well and pump maintenance and service repairs for all the city's high service pumps and wells related to our utility system. 2 vendors responded to this proposal and request, and the evaluation team has selected National Weather Services, NWS, for these recurring services. The city has worked with this vendor for 9 years, and NWS has a history of providing excellent service to the city over that period of time. The agreement is for 15 months through June 30th, 2021, and can be extended for another, at the city's option, for 4 additional 12-month period. The next item is the appointment of historian. Since 2015, Mr. Andy Pouncey has served as the city's historian over the last 5 years. The city has benefited from Mr. Pouncey's passion for historical preservation and his desire to educate others about our city's rich history and our past. He has and continues to be a valuable resource to the city whenever called upon in this function. Staff requests the extension of the service with Mr. Pouncey and the city for another 5 years. This appointment is consistent with Germantown Forward 2030 statement, which includes having, quote, engage residents who honor the past, treasure the present, and responsibly shape Germantown's future. The next item on the preliminary agenda is a grant from the government regarding the Tennessee Count grants. The Complete Count Committee, which is made up of city staff members and our local community leaders, has been working diligently over the past few months to bring awareness and importance to our citizens responding to the 2020 census. This agenda item requests acceptance of a $10,000 grant from the Tennessee Counts campaign to aid in funding the committee's promotion and outreach efforts so we can have an effective and complete count in our community. The final item on the preliminary agenda is the purchase of mobile data terminals. This agenda item requests authorizations to purchase new mobile data terminals for our public safety department. These mobile data terminals will replace existing terminals with the latest software technology and cloud-based applications. The Cinex National Corporation Purchasing Alliance contract has been used to procure mobile data terminals and associated equipment from Bright Computers, for a total cost of $52,804.87. Staff request approval of this purchase and also to declare the other items surplus. That's part of that motion. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you, City Administrator Lawton. We appreciate that. Is there a motion to adopt and approve the preliminary agenda as submitted to the public?
Move to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion by the Vice Mayor and a second by Alderman Gibson. Please call the roll.
I have a motion to amend, Mayor.
A motion to amend, okay.
Yes, sir. I would like to move to amend this agenda item, that we postpone the vote on item 6A until our June 8th BMA meeting.
There's a motion on the table to postpone the item 6A to could you repeat the date on that, please?
June 8th. Yes, sir.
June 8th. I believe it could only be postponed till the next meeting date, which would be the 27th, I believe.
I'm unaware of a rule in Robert's rules that requires.
I think it says that
Only
you can
30
only
days.
postpone to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Mayor, if I could add,
Sure.
excuse me,
Sure.
moving item 6A or postponing it from this point in time, the consequences would not be great at the Germantown Athletic Club. We typically bring these items before the board at this point during the 3-year lease of the equipment. So we have adequate time to prepare the athletic club, take the old equipment out and have the new equipment in prior to the start of the fiscal year. So the timing of this is critical that this happen now.
Thank you for the clarification. So the motion on the table is to postpone till, I'm pretty certain of that. We do not have our parliamentarian in attendance this evening, but till the next meeting. Alderman Sanders, would that be acceptable to you?
Till the next meeting will be fine.
Okay, so that would be I would just say that would be the 27th of April. It's been brought forth in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Sanders and a second by Alderman Massey. Please call the roll.
May we have some discussion, Mayor?
Sure. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. The reason I would like to postpone this, at least till the next meeting, I was hoping it could be a little later, is the city has just recently laid off 209 of our part-time employees back on March the 27th. The payment for this equipment is not due till July 1st. This is the first meeting since those individuals were laid off, and most of the individuals that were laid off in our city supported the work and function at the athletic club. And I just believe at this very first meeting after they've been laid off to approve this spending from our budget is liking to a poke in the eye of those employees. And I would just respectfully ask that we at least postpone it for some period of time.
Thank you, Alderman. Appreciate that. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd like to add.
Sure, or Vice Mayor Yonda.
Yes, the process on this has to do with the leasing. We can continue at this point. We have a lease agreement that runs to July 1st. If we wait too late, we will not have equipment there. We may be able to extend the payment that we're making each month already, which is about the same amount. It's actually the new payment's about $200 or $300 less, but we have a payment no matter what. And then if we have no equipment for the Germantown Athletic Club, when it does hopefully open up on July 1st, I think it'd be a mistake to delay this. I understand your compassion for this. I worry about that also, but hopefully these people will be back at work at the Germantown Athletic Club come July 1st. That's my hope and prayers, and we're going to should continue to move in that direction. But in the event that we do open up and we don't have any equipment for cardio, that would be an interesting situation, needless to say. So I will be voting for this to move forward, but I do appreciate your compassion and understand where you're coming from.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Further discussion?
Mayor, I would.
Alderman Massey.
Mayor, I think Alderman Sanders makes a valid point, but in addition to that, it's unclear at this time how many of our members have actually canceled their memberships, and I think that's something that warrants review before we enter into another 3-year lease agreement for this equipment. We need to know exactly how many members intend to renew and project how many that we have lost, and determine whether or not the same amount of cardio equipment and the length of the lease will be necessary going forward. Perhaps the club's director, Phil Rogers, might be able to give us an update on the number of members who have canceled their membership. It's my understanding there were quite a few that were calling in and canceling due to their inability to access the gym, their concerns over the COVID virus. And so with Alderman Sanders' point, combined with the issues relevant to the number of members who might have actually canceled their membership, I certainly think that this warrants a delay, and I support the motion.
Thank you, Alderman. Further discussion?
Mayor, if I could add, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Alderman.
New format. All the
Mr. Law.
members, their memberships have been frozen, so I don't know how many people have actually canceled. I would be surprised. The other thing is, if we don't move forward with this lease of this new equipment, there will be no equipment in the athletic club at the end of June, because this current lease is up and all this equipment, all this cardio is going to be gone. Our expectation is when we reopen that our members, because we did freeze their memberships, they're going to be back, and they're going to be anxious to work out, and they're looking forward to the new equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. Further questions or further discussion on this particular item?
Well, Mayor, just for clarification,
Sure.
I actually called the club at one point and said that I needed to cancel my membership, and the person that answered the phone asked me if I was calling to cancel my membership because of the COVID virus. And frankly, I wasn't. That wasn't my reason for canceling the membership, but that was what she said she was going to put down on the papers. And so when I inquired why they were doing it, she said that they had had a number of people who had called and requested to cancel because of the COVID virus. So I tend to think that it must have been a trend in the club that there were people calling in requesting to cancel the memberships. So maybe someone talked them out of that with this effort to freeze memberships, but that was not offered to me, and it wasn't necessarily relevant to me, but I know that they were canceling memberships because of the virus. And so I do think it's something that we need to take a look at. Surely our partners at the leasing company would be willing to extend this for a month or two to allow us to examine these things before we enter into a 3-year lease. I think they probably would under the circumstances in particular.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes,
just
Alderman
to
Sanders.
comment based on what's been said so far, it's currently the equipment that we had prior to closing is still in place at the athletic club. So it's not a problem that the club's going to open up and we're not going to have equipment. If we approve this lease before the July payment is due, I believe it will suffice. I just think it's too early at this point in time to be approving this expenditure when we don't know what our revenues are going to be.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further discussion? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson,
No.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
No.
Vice Mayor Yonda.
No.
Thank you. The motion fails. We move to the original motion on the table, and that has been properly brought forward and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mayor, I'd like to offer another amendment, please.
Sure.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we postpone the vote on agenda item 6E as in Edward until the first meeting in October. I know you believe that we can only postpone it for one meeting, but that gives us approximately 6 months to see the full effects of our economic impact of COVID-19 on our budget. I'm told that all the current terminals, data terminals that we have installed in our vehicles are in working order. This will not hinder any of the important work that our GPD officers do for our community. Public safety will not be hindered, and they will be able to conduct business as usual. There'll be no ill effects on the postponement of this vote until October, and that'll give plenty of time from October to the end of December to install the new terminals if the agenda item is approved at that time.
It's been motioned to postpone this particular item to October the 8th. Is that what you mentioned? Or the 1st of October? What was your?
That's fine, Mayor.
Which one was it? I'm sorry.
The first meeting in October.
Okay.
Mayor,
October 12th,
Yes.
Mayor.
if I could jump in again, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is money that's included in the current FY20 budget. There is no allocation at this point for the FY21 budget. This is in the current fiscal year.
Thank you
for
sir.
that. Thank you for that
Thank you.
clarification.
Thank you. And then I'll amend my motion to include that the allocated money be moved forward to the FY21 budget, which is a possibility and it can be done.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second on the particular item to postpone item E to the first meeting in October and move the allocated funding with it. Please call the roll.
Alderman Yonda,
No on the amendment.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes?
Alderman Gibson, Alderman Gibson,
No.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens.
No.
Thank you. The motion fails. We return to the primary motion on the floor to approve the preliminary agenda. It's been properly moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders,
No?
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
No.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda.
Yes.
Thank you. Preliminary agenda has been approved, and that brings us to the conclusion of this evening's meeting. I would just make the board aware. Thank you for your support. Also, on those items that there were some questions, Chief Hall, Chief Bright, Phil Rogers, or Patrick Lawton are fully available to go into detail on those items. There are no phone calls during before this meeting to ask questions on those items, so they are available at this time. Thank you, and we will reconvene at the second or fourth Monday in April. Thank you, board, and that concludes this evening's meeting. Thank you.